delivery included.
LaTB, where MMA and UFC get silly. This is the LaTB Podcast.
Welcome back to LaTB. I'm Emmanuel. We got Cheney here. It's the breakdown show for pay-per-view 245. But before that, Cheney's going to let you know what we're going to get into.
We are going to recap UFC DC. We are going to briefly, I don't even think there's anything to talk about in the Twitterverse worth holding it up. We might talk about the Fight Pick Championship a little bit and what you're all here for. We are going to try to get into it as fast as possible. UFC 245, how excited are you?
I am to the roof. The embeddeds have been off the chain. Breakdowns have been coming out everywhere. It is as good as it gets in the MMA world.
Shot out of a cannon.
It is amazing. I mean, this is what we live for. End of the year stuff. There's the LaTB's right around the corner. That's got me itching. I'm at the edge of my seat.
Have you looked at that at all?
Oh, yes, I have. I've started to mull over on it once. I was like, all right.
When you asked me for a logo, I was like, oh shit, should I start doing LaTB work? Should I start picking my Fight Pick Championship if that's what's going on?
Yeah, I look back at previous cards in the year and be like, there were some really great performances this year. But that's for another time. Are you putting
like ease pick or is it all a surprise?
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise. So if you're a really nerd and you haven't watched us yet on YouTube, you can fly over there because I'm going to try to put together silly stuff for mine as well. Maybe not even silly. Some of it will be awesome, obviously, when we have our like best submissions and best...
The classics.
Whatever. I know, and I was actually thinking about it when I was reading through the list, and I was like, isn't it weird we're about to talk about it when we get into this fight card? How this time last year, I remember the knee bars, the submission of the years happening this time last year, too. And that's the submission that kept in my head was that Bryce Mitchell Twister.
Woo! But before that submission we get into, we're going to go over the ESPN 7 card, Washington, D.C. quickly here. We ended up having a Team Money Team Fighter come through. Biggest favorite of the night for 9,400 on DraftKings. It was Mahmoud Marduov against Trevor Smith. TKO round number 3. Had him on a little bit of cards, but 9-4 was pretty steep. Trevor Smith, he's one of those guys for a long time. I've been waiting for him to get on out of here, and I think it's been pretty much proven time and time again. Then we ended up having Janji Roba submit the debuting Marley Martin, and this was a submission round number 2. I actually ended up getting 100% on this one. I switched it over Janji Roba submission round number 2 on that tech.
Everybody was lucky that you couldn't get that hot 25.
True.
Hot 25.
For another time, but Martin just didn't look UFC caliber. Jandiroba has only ever lost to Carlos Esparza, and that was it in a decision. So I think Jandiroba can eat up these early on fighters in their career right now, and only when she gets in that top 10 does she start to actually see.
Jandiroba has no blind spots. If you've seen her, you know what I mean.
She has
let it be.
180 degree vision for sure.
I'm gonna name my goldfish Jandiroba. Then she comes and beats my ass.
True. But she can get it done in there. Definitely a from prospect. Martin's, I don't necessarily like what I see. Then something that I really didn't like to see. My bad. I ended up switching some of my better friends' minds on this, and boy, howdy, did I shit in bed.
Oh, wait, Solecki was first.
Oh, wait, was Solecki ended up getting a Matt Wyman 3-round decision?
Yeah, that's kind of what everyone...
Yeah, I agree. Everyone thought it was going to be. It was a big scorer on DraftKings because he just pretty much pummeled the old man. But as we're saying, it's time for Wyman to get on out of here as well, and it's rare he's going to be winning too many more moving forward.
I got that hot 25 on that.
That's a nice way to get it. Then we ended up having...
There's no hot 25. We're not into the FPCs yet, the Fight Pick Championships for you newbies.
So, then we ended up going over to the submission that made me cry. Matt Salis getting twistered, second one ever in UFC history. Mitchell pulled it off. He was so hyped up, he's going to send Ariel Helwani some beef squirrel jerky and beef and squirrel soup. Have you been hearing about his squirrel antics lately?
Fuzzy rat soup.
So Bryce Mitchell getting it done in there, getting a performance of the night bonus as well. He's definitely
screaming for that camouflage again. Bryce Mitchell, I like him going forward. I am bummed I did switch to Salas beforehand, but I liked Salas too. I thought they were both up-and-comers. Salas's ground game, I don't know if he's been figured out or if Bryce Mitchell's that good, but either way, I love Bryce Mitchell going forward, and I think Salas might be a dirty underdog for some.
How do you feel about Bryce Mitchell also giving all credit to Eddie Bravo in that YouTube page?
Oh, I didn't see that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
He's like, I learned it off YouTube.
Oh, that's really awesome. He should go train out at 10th Planet with Eddie.
100%. And Tony.
Yeah, he seems like he has a good personality for that.
Well, he has that type of heart that we talk about, and Gas Tank where it's like, it doesn't matter.
I think he's a future star. I like his shtick. Like, he's a character. That is what it is, an entertainment sport as well. And this kind of character of being, not because you're playing a character, but not the Colby route. Not that that's wrong either. I love the shtick, but I like who he is, and it definitely is a demographic of UFC fan. So, get that camouflage, Reebok!
Get that good camouflage. Don't use that reused fabric in your shop. Everybody knows. Then we end up moving on.
Reebok still, I have to say.
Like 2 more years and we're done.
Your designs have gotten better somewhere, with the exception of the East Coast, West Coast embarrassment. I'll let that go. That's so, like, you shouldn't even have gotten involved in that. Like, here's your corporate shirts for your gangsta East-West battle, Diaz and Moss. But whatever. Their clothes are so fucking ill-fitting. We saw booty crack. We saw, come on. Sorry.
So, moving on to a featherweight bout, we ended up having Billy Quatrillo come in over Jacob Kilburn submission, round number 2. This was 2 young guys. I can't really take much from it because Kilburn just doesn't look UFC caliber to me at all whatsoever. So not much to take from that fight. Billy needs a much higher level competition. Kilburn could be a one-and-doner in the UFC. I mean, he lost his other bout on the Contender Series, so surprising.
He might have just been there to fill a spot to make this other kid look good.
Look like a murderer.
We are watching ESPN frame guys' career better for the highlight reels.
Which we should talk about a little bit in that Twitterverse stuff with that Liz Carmouche.
Oh my gosh, but here, I just gave ESPN some cred. ESPN News? ESPN, what?
True.
The W, it should be ESPN WTF.
Get on out of here.
I have ESPN on my team. We have ESPN covered. Between the two of us, we got ESPN covered. I couldn't find ESPN news anywhere. We had to illegally stream ESPN News.
Allegedly.
At somebody else's house.
Allegedly. It's somebody else's IP stream. Yeah. So.
ESPN News.
ESPN News. Unbelievable. You should be ashamed of yourselves. So, that's all I have to say about that. Moving on to Tim Means. We had him defeating Thiago Alves, submission round number 1. This should have been a TKO. This should have been a TKO. This would have been a Hot 25. Not on the main event, but still, I got robbed. I mean, Alves was done. He just decided to jump on it.
Would you say that you got Rob Fonted?
Oh! Boom! Is that the best way to go, is just move on with that from our last fight?
What's there to say about Alves and Means at this point that we haven't already said?
Great point. Then we go into the main event, the main card, 6 total bouts. We had the Fight Pick Championships. Rob Font coming through for both of us. That Hot 25 was live.
Oh, it felt good to start off with. I felt like, you know, when you're at one of those office retreats and you all have to do like trust exercises and you go out and then there's hot coals on the ground with tiki torches and they're like, come on, Cheney, you can do it. And I was like, oh, hot, 25. And then I was like, you come too. And you were like,
yes, definitely a good way to start off the night, but there's no way in hell Rob Font got a 30-27. No way he won all 3 rounds. He was taken down multiple times. Was it in the first or second?
I agree.
So 29-28, I could definitely more comfortable, but this one definitely, Ricky Simone won at least one of those rounds in there, but I still had Rob Font win a decision. Good one. Both of these guys moving forward.
And the Fight Pick Championship, speaking of a Hot 25, finished second place for like the 3rd week in a row.
Woo!
It's great, but it's like a lot of silver medals I'm accumulating. It's like I'm the swimmer that is swimming at the same time as Michael Phelps I'm the DC of the Fight Big Championships.
And I got a rope around you. And you're tugging me along because I'm in third place, though.
Overall, I'm in second place to boot.
I feel like I'm in third.
Oh, yeah. Oh, did you finish third in the week as well? Weird. We finished in the week, and then overalls are the same score as where we placed in the week.
So, living the high life, taking control of the Fight Big Championships.
Knock that Cloud 9 right out of there. I was like, dude. This is the other thing that I also have to give credit for, and it's the first time I'm really not upset about it. Ricky, number 1.
Wow.
Everybody's underneath Ricky this week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Credit where credit is due. Good job, Ricky.
So he's like a sleeper. A werewolf. He only comes out during the full moon. One time a month, here he shows up and he's gangbusters, kills everyone, and then goes back underground turns back into a human, and likes chilling out, laying low, laying the lowest.
He definitely does lay pretty low. Good for him. He definitely deserves all credit.
Congrats. And I didn't even make the thing. Of course, didn't make anything for Ricky for the YouTube. That's shitty. And I didn't even do it on purpose. It was just like I was so busy doing graphics for this week.
Because it's a stacked one. But
for UFC 245, don't forget why you're here. We haven't forgotten.
At all. Then we ended up moving over to bantamweight, 135 pounds, where you had Cody Stamann versus Song Yadong come in, and this one should not have been a draw. Cody Stamann won that fight.
See, this is why the only reason I'm not upset about the draws is I'm not naive. I had Yadong Song on this, and so the draw actually saved me from losing points.
And other people gaining points.
Yeah, so 100%. I loved it.
But I had Song Yadong as well on the Fight Big Championships. Cody Stamann won that fight.
We high-fived when it was a draw. We were like, awesome. It was like a win for us.
But that was a robbery as robbery gets. I mean, he was deducted a point in the first round for illegal knee to the head to a downed opponent. Immediate 1-point deduction. And then Cody Stamann won the next 2 rounds. Mm-hmm. On top of the first round, he dominated, making it a 10-8. There's no way it was a draw. So, absolutely shameful. Everybody knows who won that fight. And it was definitely Stamann in there. Then we ended up moving over to Aspen Ladd, getting it done in there over Yana Kunitskaya. She got it done in 33 seconds of the third round. Kunitskaya couldn't handle her on the ground. TKO. The scream was activated multiple times. In the first and second round, Kunitskaya did live through it, but that
she
third
got
round
me with that scream. I was like, stop it! Stop it!
Oh, she's gonna die!
And
she's gonna
die!
I
had Ladd KO round 2.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, come on, girl, scream. I was like, throw in the towel!
Definitely. Either way, Ladd was winning that fight. I had Kunitskaya. I was the only one. I had her decision. I was hoping she was going to be able to keep it standing. Unfortunately, she wasn't, but I think Kunitskaya stays around in the division. Ladd, she has a lot of holes in her striking. On the ground, we know what she can do. But striking, all it takes is one, which has already been proven with her.
I do like that she's definitely gotten her body under... She looked totally different.
At weigh-ins, great call.
And that is... Discipline is the key to success, I think, and longevity in this sport. And so that discipline, unlike another fighter that we'll talk about later, because I've hated on Ladd in life for missing weight. I just think you might as well let the other person do steroids before they go in. That's... you get an advantage there. So I thought Ladd looked good. Not good enough to fight Amanda Nunes.
Agreed. Totally
which is really kind of the next step in a weird way.
No way.
Yeah. Amanda Nunes fights this weekend. This was the number 1 contender of the 135.
Kunitskaya was the number 1.
Kunitskaya and Ladd, don't you think?
Oh, no. I thought Kunitskaya was way higher.
Well, the number 1 is GDR right now. And then they always like to keep Holly up there.
Exactly.
Even though she's on like a 4
Ronda's got a spot too.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Ronda Rousey, I'm going to get off topic for a second.
Get it.
So, I finally bought the UFC fight game.
Oh!
It was on sale for the holiday. It was like $17.99. And I was like, yep, I'm going to download it. I'm going to practice the UFC fight game. Because I can't let you get better than me. You introduced me to it since you got your Xbox One X or whatever fancy thing you got going on. So I started a character in the Women's 125, worked her way all the way up through her career, unlocked a bunch of screens where they were like a legend screen on my thing. One of them says GOAT because I unlocked the GOAT status on my game. I got to a spot for 2 days where Ronda Rousey was beating my ass. Like, she would just, no matter what, she would get me down at some point, and how quick that I couldn't even figure out how to get out of the arm bars. And every time I would try to get out, she would reset and just get over tired. It was just unreal. She was beating my ass. And I was like, why is this happening? I was thinking about it like a video game. And then I was laying in bed on my way to sleep one night, and I thought about it like a UFC fight fan, and I'm like, I gotta head kick that bitch. I knocked her out in the first minute of the fight. The very next time we fought,
her weakness.
I'm like, there
kick her in the head. Her only weakness.
yeah. So if you're ever stuck at Ronda Rousey on the UFC fight game, or if you want to talk
That's
about
pro tips right there. You're welcome.
Yeah,
Little
sorry.
pro tips.
That was off top. They were like, get the UFC, do more rhyme.
Then we ended up having Big Ben Rothwell getting over Stefan Struve. Not only did he have 2 dick kicks in there, which that Diamond Cup didn't work, according to Stefan Struve. You thought he was having a baby in there at times. He took all 5 minutes. Finally, that deducted a point. That lit a fire under Rothwell's ass, and he got the finish. Big Dan Mercogliata taking a lot of heat here for telling Struve, hey, you got a minute and a half. You're winning 2 rounds.
You're winning the fight.
You're winning the fight. Come on. Good on you, Dan Mercogliata, for trying to keep the fight alive. Yeah,
for me, who picked Ben Rothwell in the Fight Pick Championship. Thank you, Dan Mercogliata.
But would it have been a disqualification or no contest? Would it have been another big fat 0 points?
Oh, yeah, it might have been
another
draw. And all we got was 5 out of it.
Agreed, because we both had decision, which wasn't going to happen after that point deduction. Yeah. So, really, Stefan Struve, who's already retired, I would think that these were again his retirement papers.
These guys as with Means and
Alves, both of them can be pretty much out of here.
Say that we haven't said about Ben and fucking Struve before.
True. He's saying he's sticking around though. So
let's talk about this little cunt.
I thought you were going to say Cavilio. She ended up coming 4 pounds overweight.
I don't mean that, Cynthia. But that is shitty. 4.5 pounds or something.
4.5, almost 5, whether you count the pound allowance or not. But then against Marina Rodriguez, who took a little bit of disrespect on the face-off. She was patting her belly, definitely playing into it a little bit. Cavillo, but missing by so much, usually makes me lean into those fighters a lot more. But I was just confident in the striking of Rodriguez. And in those first 2 rounds, she really proved it. That 3rd round arguably was a 10-8 round. I thought it was a 10-9 round, Cavillo, not a 10-8. And that would have given Rodriguez a decision. So I'm kind of surprised that this was also a draw. Definite advantage for the 4 pounds.
I feel like Fight Pick Championship giveth, Fight Pick Championship taken away. I thought it was a Rodriguez decision. I felt pretty confident 29-28 that she won the fight. She won the first 2 rounds. This is the system that we're in.
Yep.
And I felt like I missed a hot 25. So the 2 draws I felt like were a wash for me.
Great point.
But in the overall Fight Pick Championship, it probably did affect us somewhere. But probably the World Winning Federation probably had both of them right either way.
So then we had the main event. What everybody saw, what was on everyone's highlight, it made ESPN highlights. For sure, the absolute destruction of Alistair Overeem's face. We saw him turn into the Kraken for a bit. We saw him be one of those Zoidberg characters. I mean, that punch in the 5th round. I honestly thought that 1st round, Alistair Overeem with the takedown for sure. Rozenstruik eked out the 2nd. Alistair Overeem had the 3rd. And I thought the 4th went to Rozenstruik. I was surprised that all 4 judges had
Overeem.
All 3 judges had Overeem.
I had it going into the 5, the 5 mattering.
Yeah.
I had it all to
mattering
that 5.
as well. So I was surprised, so it's all that 2nd round because most judges gave it to Rozenstruik in the 4th. A lot of people said it was 4 seconds left, the only shot he could have done. Some people are saying they should have let him keep fighting.
No way.
Right? If it's a cut, you stop for the cut.
100%. There is not a ref alive that would allow them to keep fighting with that
Whether
cut.
it's a knockout or not, right? So people that are arguing to let him stand up and keep going.
It was a knockout. It took Overeem a little bit to come all the way around afterward.
People have been calling, well, move forward like you're going to punch him again and make the ref step in, because the ref half stepped in and then half did it. And then it's like, saw the damage and was like, this fight's off. Yeah, of course it's fights off.
There's a reason that there is a time limit. And it's not because, well, we'll just let it go the force. It's like, no, there's the time. You can win any amount of time inside that time. Any time. It doesn't mean, oh, well, it's close enough to the end. There was only 15 seconds. The ref could have let him hold him in a sleeper hold for another 15 seconds and let the other guy win the fight. You know, like, that's the same way to look at it.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
So.
But I had a Rosenstruck, and that knockout gave me a cool 15. Driving in like James Dean with my cool 15.
Definitely. Having that TKO round number 1 prop didn't come through. It ended up finishing in the 5th, which would have been ridiculous amount of props money.
Probably
Crazy props money in the 5th to finish. But it was definitely a fun ton of finishes throughout the night. Absolutely marquee, not only for that, for 2 draws in one night. I feel like we've had more draws this year than I can remember. So
way more of an exciting fight card than anyone was thought that it would be.
I agree.
There was like finish. So
tons of highlight finishes.
My draws up for the UFC 245 breakdown.
So we don't want to do any more Twitterverse. There was Liz Carmouche getting released while she was doing promos in DC, and the excuse of the UFC was she beat too many people, and she doesn't really have a.
I have to stick up for the UFC a little bit here. And I might be the only one. People think it's shitty. Like, this is just proof. I even read a Yahoo article that was, like, written by a bunch of Yahoos. It was like, this is just proof of how bad the UFC treats their fighters. But did you know that the UFC didn't ask her to go on this trip, that she called them and asked to go and paid for herself?
I was not aware of that.
Exactly. She put herself there. Like, they didn't invite her, and they were like, okay, if you want to go, you can go. It just happened to be piss poor timing. Could they have waited till the next week to tell her? Yeah. But, I mean, it's not a heavy division. She could definitely still win fights in the 125 or 135, but
she was in the first fight ever for WMMA. She is officially got to be on that Mount Rushmore. Even though she was on the losing end, she was a part of the first ladies fight ever in the promotion.
I wouldn't put her on my Mount Rushmore at all.
Oh, really? I think like a legend. Fighters, she's not a Hall of Famer to you in the UFC?
I mean, just because the division's so,
new?
like, it's puddle deep. You know?
True.
But she was in the first fight. If you put her up there because she's in a picture of the first fight, I don't know what Liz Carmouche ever. Yeah, I don't know what she ever. I don't.
It's
I mean,
her doing this.
She's all right to me, but I mean, I
first gay MMA fighter, openly gay MMA fighter as well.
I don't care about that either.
She was a Marine.
Yeah, that's good for her. That's why I think, like, she wanted to go to DC, was probably to be involved in that whole thing of being there because of her service. So that sucks. I think it's piss poor timing. But I just found that out and was like, oh, well, that changes my whole opinion on it. I was like, that's so shitty, UFC. But anyway. Does it change your opinion at all, or you still think totally shitty? I
still think totally shitty, and there's just been a track record that...
What would be a fight you'd be excited to watch Liz Carmouche in?
Did she fight Aspen Ladd? She's too light.
No, they're 125.
Yeah, right. I'd say that'd be actually a great one, but...
Because she just went down to 125 her last fight, I think.
I think so as well. The Gorilla, though, being definitely ultra strong in there and great grappling, that's what the UFC said, saying that... You know, she just kind of beats their up-and-comers, so they're looking for people that, you know, get more finishes in there. Weird dynamic that's accumulating. We have interesting stuff with even Colby, the interviews that have been coming out. I know I'm jumping the gun here, but he was just saying he was about to get cut and giving kind of him being put in this corner that Carmouche was. of being like, they were going to cut me on a win or loss. They told me, you're done, dude. And then he was like, F you, Brazil. And they're like, dang it, this guy just got a following. So Liz Carmouche didn't get that. She didn't get a following. She has no one asking to watch her fight, I guess, as
if
you're
you
getting to.
told me there's only room for one fighter, Liz Carmouche or Leslie Smith, I'm picking Leslie Smith every time.
Oh, great point.
I'm just saying. So are we going to, do we have anything else to talk about, or are we going to get nasty?
I think we need to get
like that for the audio listeners.
We ain't going to get that Amanda Nunes, Zina Asnoff nasty.
Yeah, no. Scissoring.
It's called jiu-jitsu.
That's Eddie Bravo shit.
So, we are here for the UFC 245 pay-per-view in Vegas. You're going to have to shell out 70 bones to get it in HD. Go through that ESPN Plus. It's going to be a 13-card bout. It is hype. This is, an end of the year closeout show. One to remember. The cards are stacked.
This isn't the year closeout. There's another
one
fight
more?
on the 21st, I think.
In my head, this is the year's end. This is the last pay-per-view.
You're not going to watch the next one?
Well, I might take a dabble in it. I might, maybe one or two bouts. But this is the last pay-per-view of the year.
Truth there.
Last time we got to pay for one.
It's UFC Fight Night Busain, Chen Sung Jung versus Frankie Edgar.
Oh, definitely more excited for this one.
Yeah, true. Never mind.
Also valid point. You're welcome out there, LaTB universe. So, in this 13-card bout, it's going to be headlined by Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington. We've been talking about it for months. There's 3 belts on the line. Nunes, GDR, and Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. But you know how we always do. We start from the bottom to the top, and it ain't going to change. Here, we have a debuting fighter, Pelele Siriano, coming in against Oscar Pichota. Pichota's already had 2 fights in the UFC, losing both of those bouts. He's 11-2, losing to Ranolfo Vieira and Gerald Meerschaert, both of these being submissions. He actually has 3 fights in there, beating Tim Williams as well. Pichota's a black belt. I believe he's a Danaher black belt. I could be getting my coaches mixed up, but I know that I definitely watched some fun tape.
In what?
Jiu-jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Pichota
is. He's getting submitted by Meerschaert. But Meerschaert hurt him with punches. It's just Pichota's striking is really limited, but he was the champ over in Cage Warriors, and in his earlier fights, even though he's only 29, he took damage in other fights where now it's UFC caliber. But I don't know if this debuting fighter in Siriano is UFC caliber. He's a perfect 6-0. He's a young man at 27 years old coming out of Hawaii. Max Holloway having some good interactions with him. But he won his Contender Series fight in a decision. And this is a year where there was a lot of other guys that they were not taking on for decisions. And Siriano didn't do anything in that fight. He gassed out in the middle of the second round and was dead. That third round, he didn't want to get off his stool. I went back and watched it and was like, this is a Contender Series guy. Siriano throws heavy shots, tons of power to the body and head. But with those shots, with that confidence, the gas tank just has proven to be limited. Watched a lot of his high school wrestling tapes, interestingly enough, for Siriano. Good wrestler. Has some submissions, but they're not high level. I don't think he's going to submit Pichota. I think it's more probably a TKO for Siriano if he gets a finish. But I think Pichota can actually drag this into the second and third round, and I think he can actually pull off a submission here. Give me the underdog slightly to start off the night in Pichota. I got submission round number 2. Who do you have in this fight and why?
I'm at a big fat stay away from this. I am not going anywhere near this. It could be either really boring. I think it's a setup fight for another Hawaiian fighter. I'm going to go Siriano, submission round number 2. Pichota, I'm kind of fading out. If you tell me he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, it makes me want to fade him even more because I think his ground game's trash. So his stand-up game's and I think Pechota's his high water mark, but I also don't want to invest so much in Saran. I don't know anything about this guy. I don't like the newbies to the UFC. You know how I am. So stay away, even though I have submission round 2.
So the other commonality between Max Holloway and Siriano is that Ali Abdallah sleaze. Hence a decision and getting in still for that Contender Series fight. So there was definitely some contractual stuff going on in there. On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the slight minus 125 favorite, Paleli Siriano at 8,200 against Oscar Pechota's 8,000 even. You're saying stay away from it completely. We both have finishes here for 8,000. I think this is a volatile matchup where I'm going to get 10 and 10% on these guys. We usually stay away from them, but I see a finish one way or the other.
I think there's so much better money to be spent tonight on different fighters that are worth more points.
Are you going to play more cards? Because you were saying that last week. I definitely am.
I mean, for me, I might play like 8 cards.
Okay.
Yeah, I usually go like 4 on a bad night and then sometimes 10. But I'll do, instead of like a more expensive card, I might break it up into 3 lesser cards. But this one's also going to have the televised.
Correct.
And it probably will have the Rambo pick.
I would love if it had the Rambo pick.
I hope they try that again.
I haven't seen it yet, but this is where they are putting the most money out on DraftKings. So if you aren't subscribed, get on that. Get on there. We'll be putting out picks to help go along through our DraftKings. Anything left with either one of those gentlemen? Moving on to the dirtiest fight of the night, in my eyes. I mean, Jessica Ai at flyweight against Viana Arigio. Arigio coming in with an 8-1 record, debuting against Botello, getting a big upset on short notice, then also beating Alexis
You know what?
Davis.
I actually think this is testament to how good this fight card is, that this is the second fight of the night.
Jessica Ai just fought for the belt and is all the way at the bottom of the card.
It should say how good the fight card is. Like, this is the second fight. It's because everything else really does get better from here. But even Araujo is pretty awesome. So,
she's a tough lady.
Yeah, so I just, even the Pechota fight, even the other guy doesn't have a name yet in the UFC, but Pechota alone to be the first fight of the night, that means this card is legit. Too legit to quit. Too legit. Oh, sorry, go back to
super
dirty.
Stacked.
I was scared to get pink eye.
The dirty evil eye. I bet you this is Worldwide Whining Federation's #1 fighter.
I wonder if his eye is named Jessica. What you looking at Jessica for?
So
look me in my Jessica.
So, Jessica Evil Eye coming in with a 14-7 record. We all saw her last defeat. It was
Iron Man. I am Iron Man. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry.
So, Jessica Eye getting finished with that head kick. We all saw it. It's going to be on a highlight reel. I mean, knockout of the year contender, the way she went limp. It was about, 5 months ago? Since then, 6 months ago. We usually want 8 because she was out. She didn't remember where she was. She was just like, what happened, when she woke up like 2 minutes later. And definitely training with Stipe Miocic, all of those documentary about that athletic program she's training with. But Evil Eye comes in with wrestling, solid striking, little bit of power on her hands, but she doesn't really wow you anywhere. She just kind of wins decisions more than anything. I think striking-wise, Araujo has much better combinations, better entries. Wrestling-wise, Ai does have an advantage with the takedowns, but I feel like Araujo can not only get back up, she can actually start to stuff takedowns, and once she keeps it standing, she just kind of runs away with this fight. I don't know if I necessarily see a finish here. I think people are going to be quick to jump on that because of the last finish from Shevchenko, but this is two vastly different fighters.
Rajo ain't Shevchenko, you guys.
Exactly. Big difference. So give me Araujo.
She has knocked somebody out.
Botello, who shouldn't be in the UFC either. So give me Araujo decision. I might move it up to a finish a little bit later on, but I'll stay steady with the decision for the sided favorite. Who do you have in this fight?
This is going to be surprising, but in the last fight that Araujo was in, I thought Alexis Davis looked so good in the first 2 rounds of that fight. She kind of went out and I was surprised. I thought it should have been closer of a fight on the scorecards. That being said, I think Jessica Ai is better than Alexis Davis a little bit, and I do think that ground game and forward pressure of Jessica Ai, I think she's just going to try to get it to the ground every single round, and if she can even do that twice, I think she can keep that dominant top pressure to maybe not land as many strikes. She doesn't have a crazy, she's not going to posture up and lay a bunch of ground and pound on somebody. She usually grinds them to a finish. I think she's still hungry, and she kind of looked better than she ever has. It sucks she got laid out by Shevchenko, but everybody knew she wasn't ready for that fight. She should have never taken that fight. That wasn't her shit. She should have just stayed in the back and kept getting wins under, because Jessica Ai has a decent enough name in the UFC. So I'm actually going to go Ai decision here. And it's not anything against Orejo. This will just be my question on how good her ground game is. I think she's been against a bunch of strikers, and Jessica Ai ain't that. So give me some of that pink.
Getting it on DraftKings, the minus 175 favorite Araujo is 8,600 against Evil Eyes 7,600 plus 145 underdog for Cheney, coming in with a big underdog. I started it off with Machota. You're getting it going, keeping it going with I. We're splitting it up. This is going to be a fun fight night.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be a fun one.
And I really like her. This will be if she makes it through Ai's ground game, it's like, oh, you ready for the top 5, girl?
Definitely going to be an interesting bout. Do you think you're going to play it on DraftKings for 7-6 on Jessica Ai?
I might put her on one.
At 8,600 for Araujo.
I don't see her getting walked through. I don't see her getting finished.
Well, Araujo,
she isn't getting taken down. So her only thing is getting picked apart on the feet, and that would be because Jessica Ai can't get a takedown, which I just don't see happening. So
you see the takedowns coming. Araujo averages in her 2 fights 91 points.
That's nice.
So
that's a lot of hands.
Yeah, for 8,600, I'm going to be in that 20% Araujo.
Wow.
No Ai anywhere. Just give me the Visine. That's all I got to say about that one. At 125 pounds, we're moving on to flyweight, where we have Brandon Moreno coming in against Kai Kara France, the first leg of the city kickboxing team. You know, Adesanya just had a belt wrapped around his waist, and his teammate's going to have a chance at that later on. But first, Kai Kara France, he's in one of these spots that we like to go all one team or not all one team. And this is going to set the tone potentially for the way it goes on. But if you've been watching those embeddeds, you get to watch a little bit of how Kai's feeling in there, because he is attached to that main event. So France comes in with a 20-7 record. As of late, he beat Mike De La Rosa in a decision. Prior to that, he beat Paiva in a split decision that he lost. Only because Kai Kara France was in his hometown did he win that. But we saw when France can't get those takedowns, which he does have a good double leg takedown and outside stepping takedown, he struggles striking. He does have some good striking, but as far as all these city kickboxing strikers, Kai Kara France is probably the most limited. He has the least amount of angles, really gets hit a lot more, but does most of his work on the ground. He gets on top and stays on top. Throws some submission attempts in there, a lot of ground and pound, but gets in really close fights, does France, compared to some of his predecessors here. Brandon Moreno's had a really interesting climb in the UFC at 15-5-1. He's coming off of a draw to Askarov in a split decision draw 2 months ago. Prior to that, he won in the LFA, but he was released from the UFC only after losing to Alejandro Pantoja and Sergio Pettis. But he finished people like Dustin Ortiz. He's had other high-level finishes in there. Moreno looked like an all-star. He has a big fan base coming out of Mexico. It was really weird that the UFC cut him, only to bring him back in a interesting stylistic matchup. Moreno gets taken down far too easily in his fights.
I really think the UFC was going to drain the 125 completely, and he was in that cut when Mighty Mouse left and went over to 1. And I think ESPN, for some reason, maybe with Henry Cejudo's help, saved the 125.
I agree.
And then you bring Moreno back, because he was an exciting 125er.
That's exactly it. He's somebody that, even though he gets taken down a lot, he throws up tons of triangles, tons of elbows off of his back. Super dangerous. He'll throw up those heels and stuff. But the thing is that if he doesn't get that submission, all of a sudden he keeps giving up 3-4 takedowns in a fight, and he loses on points.
He has a little quit and a soft body.
Right. France, I'm not worried about the striking so much, but Moreno has the more flash, but he's also out of position out of both fighters a lot more. I actually think that Moreno can reverse some of these positions, and I feel like he can eke out a 29-28 type of a decision. I got a dirty split here. I think it could go either way, but I like the slight underdog. Give me Brandon Moreno in a decision. I think he scrambles his way to top position more often than not. Who do you have and why?
I like that. I'm actually just going to go with Cara France decision because I respect Brandon Moreno. I think it's going to be gross. I think it's going to be a dirty split. I think it'll be a 29-28 maybe win for Cara France, but I think he's kind of been overshadowed in his last fights. He had, his gym had so many other big fights going on. Main event type fights that I think he could have gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit. Now I think all the head guys at his gym are like all eyes on Cara France and homeboy
Hooker?
Volkanovski
and
moving
right.
forward.
Oh, right,
they can all pay attention. They got the guys. They got Israel Adesanya paying attention. They got everybody like all hands on deck for them, where it doesn't seem like they would have gotten that attention 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago when their other guys were in the headlines. So I just think his young download ability, I actually liked his hands more than his takedowns, and I think it'll be a piece apart just by how many points he lays. I also think he'll have a decent enough takedown defense against Brandon Moreno I think Brandon Moreno will get the first few. I think Brandon Moreno could win the first round just by control. But I think Cara France gets it back. Give me Kai. Decision.
On DraftKings, the minus 150 favorite, Cara France, 8,500 on DraftKings against Brandon Moreno, 7,700 plus 120 as it stands right now. I'm going to be playing Brandon Moreno and no Cara France.
I'm going to play both guys.
Nice.
Obviously not on the same card. Not a stack.
Yeah, definitely not a stack.
And I could feel totally different. This is definitely one of those fights come weigh-ins that I could switch. Could see myself going the other way. But right now I like what I was seeing by Cara France. Ooh, and I'm always heavy Brandon Moreno. I don't know when I kind of
picked against him. Yeah, I think you have been one of the bigger fans of Moreno for a long time, picking him against a lot of solid opponents in there. It's definitely stylistically a very close fight, so really intriguing as to what goes down in there.
Ooh, I'm 2-4. I used to be with him all the time, and then I stayed with him, and he did not do great.
Oh, and this is Moreno's picking.
Yeah, like I always went with Moreno, and it did not pay off. So maybe I'm just a little bitter.
Maybe. Interesting. So 8-5, definitely going to be a little steep for me in such a close fight. But then we move on to 145 pounds, where we have the debuting Chase Hooper Contender Series hopeful coming in against Daniel Taymura, as we like to go around here. He is definitely the lesser Taymur, as some say.
Is this rude if I make the card and keep his name Tayless? Is it rude?
A little bit. Some people could definitely not take like to that. But hey, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Get us some heat. Maybe one of his.
Give me that Colby Covington heat.
I can't even imagine how many Twitter followers he has.
So, Daniel Taymur.
It is rude. I'll just do it on the show. I'll change it.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
But as Ricky would say, I'll say it with my chest, and I'll leave it Tayless.
It is Tayless in there. 7-3, losing 3 in a row, keeping his job in there. Interesting enough, got a 4th shot and actually beat the debuting Bin Joe, which here we told you was going to probably happen because that Joe guy was absolute garbage. Taymur keeps it striking. He's still a realtor. His daytime job a banker. He fights on the side. His takedown defense hasn't been the best. Striking wise, he's limited. He has some good combinations, but his fight IQ can get a little bit overwhelmed at times. On the ground, he just seems like he doesn't know where he's at times, and that's where he's been submitted the most is on the ground. And I feel like the UFC's kind of trying to set that up. Chase Hooper, being 20 years old, tried out for the Contender Series at 18 years old, was on one of the grossest fights I've ever seen in my life. It looked like WMMA in there. I mean, it was two guys rolling around on the ground, locking up half submissions and just giving up position. Hooper regularly does not shoot for takedowns where he jumps for guard. He'll jump for that guillotine because he's usually a lot taller at 6'1", at 145 pounds. He reaches and will give up that position. Against Tamur, even off of his back at 6'1", Hooper's going to be a problem if he gets him down and gives up the takedown. It's whether Tamur just backs up and keeps striking. And if he does, Tamur can win this fight just like that Joe fight. It's in the exact same. If it goes to the ground, Hooper's going to win this via submission. But if it stays standing, Tamur's going to be able to pick him apart. This is a dirty, dirty split. This is bottom of the barrel UFC kind of opponents to me, and that's what makes it so much closer. I actually think I'm going to go with Tamur here as a slight underdog, but it's a coin flip at minus money for both fighters right now. Give me Tayless as a decision. That's 2 times in a row I'm picking him. Let's see what happens.
I can't pick Tayless again. And I also just think this is a complete setup. Let's take our youngest fighter. Let's give him the guy that's most likely to be submitted. I think they would have called CM Punk out of retirement if they could to set up Chase Hooper on his go-ahead. I think the kid is a star in the making. He's super long, so they also gave him a super short guy that he can, it's that much
jump on that guillotine
to grab it. So I have Hooper submission round 2 just out of respect for Daniel, but I kind of I'm going to move it up to 1 because as you can tell by my Tayless graphic, I have no respect.
No respect.
That's so shitty.
No respect.
Anyway, Chase Hooper submission round 1. I'm not going to go super heavy on him at all. I probably won't have him on 1 card. I wonder how much he is.
On DraftKings, the minus 120 favorite Chase Hooper debuter is 8,300 against...
I might have him on 1 or 2. I thought he was going to be in the 9.
Tayless's 7,900. I think that Hooper is live for a knockout because of the lack of his head movement and how quickly he always wants to get his fights to the ground. I think you're spot on with Hooper can get that submission round number 1 because, as you're saying, with that shortness, it's tailor-made for Hooper to jump on that guillotine and be like, oh, I have an extra inches that you've never felt. So I think I'm going to split it up and go 10 and 10% on both guys because they're right in the middle. I think both of them are live for the finish. I actually had Tamur decision. I think you're swaying. I think I'm going to go Hooper
I like
submission.
everything you say, too. It's obviously the experience there. He's not against... But the caliber of guys that Tayless is going against are contender caliber guys. He's not going against anyone
Fish
great.
Gold and stuff, and he's getting submitted. So I'm jumping back to Hooper submission round number 2, 8,300. I'm still going to go 10 and 10 on these guys because they're right in the middle. So I think they can score out a lot.
I don't know if I want either of these guys ruining my night.
Then we end up moving to 170 pounds where we have Matt Brown coming in against Ben Killaby Saunders. Saunders coming off of a 3-fight losing streak, only getting 1 win out of his last 5, being 22-12. I've been making a lot of money on Saunders, betting against him. Unfortunately, he just can't take punches. We've said it time and time again. He has that tall man's defense, leaves his chin right up in the air. If Killaby gets you to the ground, he will go plata you. He will submit you. He'll rubber guard you. On the ground, he's next level with his submission, especially with his length at 6'3". He tends to give... It's not only 6'3", he's a long 6'3". He's really gangly with those legs and arms, so he locks up stuff that a lot of other people can't.
Build, super he's wide shouldered, so I think it even gives him that extra, and he almost looks double jointed in there.
He's definitely like the Woodson of the 170 pounders with all that range, but he doesn't use it with his jab. Well, he'll throw a good jab out there, and he'll eat a big overhand right with them just because he's almost in that Stefan Struve range with some of his strike defense. But it's not even that. It's just that when he gets hit, even with not all the most powerful shots, he goes down hard and he goes stiff. Seen him be completely lights out for minutes at a time, live in person, where I'm like, Ben Saunders, it's time, buddy. Please for your own good. Just go teach jiu-jitsu classes. And against Matt Brown, he's one of these guys who specifically calls out fighters that he knows he can beat. Diego Sanchez at 155 being one of those. And Matt Brown's one of these guys who's like looking to take fighters. The call-outs he has are guys with chin issues. Every single one of them. This is another one. Matt Brown is a big favorite for a reason. He's 38 years old coming in against the 36-year-old Saunders. It's not necessarily that Matt Brown's a better fighter. It's just fading Ben Saunders completely here for me. And I got to fade him big as well. I think Matt Brown's super live for the TKO round number 1. And it's a complete fade. I can't go into the fight skills because the chin's not involved here. If it gets to the ground, hell yeah, Ben Saunders is live for a submission. I just think that even if he gets inside control, Matt Brown's going to hit him with some elbows, and that's going to be pretty much it.
What about the 2 years off? You think good for Matt Brown? He doesn't seem like a guy to get nervous under the lights.
I think he tore a knee or a shoulder. He had a surgery is why, because he had a bout fizzle out.
I think the prop bet to make is knockout round 1, period. I think it doesn't...
Or inside the distance?
Yeah, I don't think it goes past the first round. I think somebody gets a quick knockout here. I actually like all the time that Matt Brown's taken off, but I like the activity of Ben Saunders. I think he's a more dangerous guy because people are so worried about the takedown that he can knock someone out. So I just could see Ben Saunders finishing Matt Brown, but the 2 years off, I kind of love for Matt. I think he's going to be strong, tight clinch, inside knees, inside elbows, something nasty, grimy. I like the round 1 finish as well. I just think he's going to be expensive, so unfortunately.
He is the second highest priced fighter on DraftKings, one of the biggest favorites of the night, minus 360. Matt Brown's 9,300 on DraftKings against Ben Saunders, 6,900. One of the cheapest guys on the slate. Is it worth it to put Saunders on a couple just to hedge? Well, I like to say that in general, but...
If you're going to have a hedge bet card, I don't think it's bad.
Because he has a submission ability in any fight.
Matt Brown, he's at Team Elevation, so we're like, oh, good, we're going to like his cardio, but who else is there? Has he been with Alistair Overeem?
Curtis Blades.
I like
Archuleta. TJ Dillashaw. There's definitely...
TJ's not there anymore.
Is he not?
Because he's just at his camp out in California.
Okay.
They come to him at his camp.
Okay.
I think he just works with Dwayne.
I know Blades is up there for sure. And
that's awesome.
People rotate through. Definitely. So here...
Gosh, it's weird to have a KO round 1 and not want to put it anywhere.
I know it's hesitant, but I feel like that's pretty locked in. I feel like I'm really comfortable with that. And even though it's such a high price, I'm like... feel fairly safe with Matt Brown in that spot.
Fun. I'm excited to see Matt Brown. I know it's usually with these older guys. I mean, I want him to retire, I think, just at his age, but he always puts on a good show in there.
If he specifically calls out these type of fighters, yeah, he's going to have an advantage. So I think this is a great call out for him. Ben Saunders, please don't get hurt. Please don't get hurt in there. So that's all that's left with that one. Moving on to... Ian Heinisch coming in against Amari Akhmedov. Akhmedov being 19-4. Coming off of a 5-fight winning streak, having a draw in there against Vittori. Prior to that, he beat Al Hassan in a split decision. 2 fights in a row beating Tim Boschee and Zach Cummings. Both of those guys are in the tenure of their careers. The 32-year-old Akhmedov is lying. He is absolutely lying.
You think he's 12?
Yeah. That motherfucker's 48. He looks so old. He looked like he came in at 35 a few years ago, let alone like he's 32 years old now. Just stiff. He likes to stand and bang, throws haymakers from the hip, uses his wrestling in reverse to keep it striking on the ground more than serviceable. Akhmedov's always had a serviceable gas tank. Doesn't really wow you. He's just one of these daggy fighters that's super serviceable everywhere, but doesn't really have a title contention. I feel like when he gets into these top echelons of guys, he will give them problems, but he can get squeaked out of there. He has lost a couple bouts via knockout and decisions in there, but interesting bout that he has here with Heinisch. He has his hands full. going back and watching Heinish's fights, even though we've made a lot of money here with the underdog, telling you to pick him in a lot of other bouts, he finally was defeated in the UFC by Derek Brunson in a bout where Brunson went back to his wrestling and just really proved that Heinisch has deficiencies in his takedown defense, which so did Ferreira, and was the other opponent, Carlos Jr. They both took him down 4 and 5 times in the strike statistics. It was just the fact that Heinisch was landing 20 or 4 more strikes and maybe getting a rocking the opponents where he'd win those, squeak out those decisions. So Heinisch has been in really dicey fights, and it's because he gives up so much position. It's just the volume. He doesn't throw that one hard knockout Rosenstruck type of strike. He patters you, kills you by 1,000 cuts. And I feel like here against the Akhmedov, he's going to give up those takedowns, and Akhmedov isn't going to let him up. It's just stylistically, this is a nightmare, I think, for Heinisch. Akhmedov doesn't get overwhelmed by volume, guys. I feel like he's seen that before, and he just knows what to do. He turn and dumps and actually has a good double leg takedown. So I think it goes decision. I wanted Heinisch initially. I have him, and I'm actually surprised he's a favorite right now. I had Heinisch decision.
Because of the amount of ground guys that Heinisch has probably gone against.
Beaten, but when I went and looked at the stats, they should have won via the stats. It's the crowd and or just what the momentum looks like, because the Heinisch does wilt guys. But
stats aren't everything.
And Brunson
isn't even close to tell all the story, because one guy could just control like one round, and
sure,
the other guy take over for the rest of them.
Sure, so they can be deceiving for sure. But I had Heinisch initially.
Heavy. We tend to lean so heavy, giving takedowns more credit than judges ever do,
which we saw over the weekend. Yeah. I feel like this last weekend in DC. But give me Akhmedov. This close. I get switched by the weeks out. I'm switching live on air right now. Give me Akhmedov decision. Who do you have?
I'm going Heinisch decision, and this is just purely to the caliber of Akhmedov fighters that he's gone against of recently. It's like the doughiest Zach Cummings that you've ever seen in your life. Tim Bosch, where I think it was Tim Bosch's first fight back that we were like, oh, Tim Bosch is fighting still? Like, and the Marvin Vettori draw, I think that's probably his best fight, is Marvin Vettori, and I kind of put Heinisch a little above Marvin. I think he's still working, still progressing, getting better and better every fight. I think this is going to be a nasty, nasty, nasty fight. I think it's kind of going to be a boring fight, close. Very sweaty. One for the hardcores for sure. I think there are going to be transitions, but purely because of the way Derek Brunson handled Heinisch, I think Derek Brunson has better wrestling than Akhmedov, and because of the way he handled him, I have to think that this is the number one thing Heinisch worked on for this fight, fighting that last guy. So give me Heinisch decision. I just think he's on trajectory up still in the UFC, and Akhmedov's a guy that's, riding that Dagestan
name more than anything. I think you might be right on that. I had Heinisch earlier that I could switch back. That's how close this day fight is. Exactly. Heinisch minus 145. He's going to be the slight favorite on DraftKings, 8,400 against Amari Akhmedov, 7,800 plus 115. I think I'm staying away from this bout, as you're saying as well.
High scoring. I agree.
It's just going to be a wrestling match, and not the high scoring type of wrestling matches in there. So big fat stay away on that one. Then we move on to 135 pounds, where we have Caitlin Vieira coming in against Irene Aldana. Aldana having that hype. Robles in there, 11-5, coming off of a win against Vanessa Mello, losing to Pennington in a split decision, getting a submission over my girl, Betchko Hea, in an armbar. Beating Pudilova in there. Irene Aldana definitely profiles that Lobo camp, being a striker, finally getting some takedown defense under her name. That submission came in at the end of a round against the Betch. So I wouldn't say she's necessarily a submission ace in there by any means whatsoever. She definitely likes to box. Uses her length better than most people, does Aldana. Long jab on her. Good straight left on it coming up. She's a good southpaw. And even though switch her stance in there, it's just her ground game. Irene Aldana will beat some lesser ground ladies, but any black belt, any lady of caliber has been able to really stifle Aldana once she gets it down to the ground. It's whether it gets there or not. Vieira, definitely much more accoladed, 10-0 perfectly, beating Kat Zingano, beating Ashley Evans, having more of a head down, brawling type of strike until she gets that body lock, and then she'll go for an outside trip, inside trip. She has a black belt in judo and jiu-jitsu and really likes to just push women up against the fence, put that head in the chest, and just spam really low percentage takedowns, but she spams them so much that they eventually work because she's just tripping on the outside. Then she'll come in for the inside, trip to the outside, but she's not pulling women over herself, which a lot of people do, or pull people down. She's just like, oh, okay, finally. And on the ground, she has more than enough to be able to submit Aldana and just advance position. So
where's she been for the last 2 years, year and a half?
I didn't see whether it was an injury or not. I wasn't able to tell. I feel like there's a lot of ladies that don't want to fight her. She's hard to find bouts for, just because she's not flashy. You don't see Vieira coming in there and having a striking bout and being fan-friendly. She gets the body lock, drags you to the ground, and starts to work and throws rapid punches in there. And I think that that's a lot what's going to happen here. I could see a live submission for Vieira. I don't think Aldana has a submission chance in here, and striking-wise, she's never been a knockout artist. She kills you by 1,000 cuts, and that's it. She does not finish you striking. So give me a decision for Ketlen Vieira in there. Who do you have in this bout?
Gosh, I sure do like the activity of Aldana over Ketlen Vieira. I want to go with the crowd here and go with Vieira, but that inactivity, it just makes me so curious. I hope she's back for a reason. I like her camp more. I like that her reach isn't that insignificantly different than Aldana because she can cut you by 1,000 cuts and tries to keep you on the outside. So I like I'm really, I was feeling Aldana. I was kind of confused about the odds here. But Ketlen, maybe if she's just one of those people that's very selective, maybe heals from all of her injuries, gets the right training. She looked so hot when she was out before. I hope she comes out just as good. This is to pacify the Brazilian crowd. Give me Ketlen Vieira by, is she going to knock her out? I'm going to go with the decision here.
Interestingly enough, one thing we always like to talk about is stadium elevation. This is in Vegas. I feel like Vegas tends to be one of the better commissions just because they have such high profile bouts.
Yeah.
So the desert this time of year, I don't know if I'm bringing external elements in here. I feel like your Brazilian comment was just like, well, we're in Brazil. No, we're not. No, we're in Vegas. So the commission should really be spot on.
If you've ever been to a UFC fight, a quarter of them, 100% of the time, wherever you're at, are Brazilian. Like, I wasn't alluding to that it was in Brazil at all.
True. I was just having a mental fart there because it's interesting bout on DraftKings, though. You're going to end up paying for the minus 170 favorite, Ketlen Vieira, 8,800 against Irene Aldana, 7,400. Fairly big underdog there.
Plus
140 Aldana.
I could see myself maybe using her as my low dog to get a more expensive fighter. I don't know if I see her getting finished.
I don't know if I see the finish either. Both of these ladies, Aldana averages 71 points on DraftKings, Vieira 76 points. You're definitely having to pay up a lot for Vieira here. I'm going to do 10% Vieira. I don't like Aldana in this spot. I think she's going to be her volume is going to be stifled with that clinch. So then we move on to the preliminary headliner of the night. This is one to get us ready for that pay-per-view. Oh man, this is can be in the BMF type. Maybe not the BMF. This is a brawler's delight. This is a striker's delight. This is one.
Close to BMF.
Not even close. I'm just trying to put extra belts in here. You know me. So we have Mike Perry coming in against Jeff Neal. He, at 170, here, Platinum Mike Perry's coming off of a dirty split where his face was rearranged completely. That nose was broken. If you look at the stats there, Perry should have won that fight as well. It was that nose that, by the nose didn't
I
turn
can't
the
just go on
decision.
stats because I didn't feel like he won the fight when I was watching it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think somebody can accumulate all their stats in one round, or like the rounds can be different. Dominance, ring control, all that stuff doesn't really show on some of the stats.
So Perry likes to brawl in here. He likes to come in with some good boxing. Takedown defense has been all right. He shot a couple takedowns in there against Donald Cerrone. That didn't work out too well. But here against Neal, Neal doesn't try to take it to the ground at all. He's 12-2. He's been getting knockouts a ton as of late. Knocking out Nico Price, knocking out Camacho in there, a knockout of the year potential. Submitting Kamosi in there. Just highlight reels for Jeff Neal in there. Takedown defense, as I was saying, has gotten a lot better, but it's just the power in that left hand. He pistons that hand out there. And even that...
you said he pissed himself.
Some of his opponents do when those strikes come out. Neal throws hard kicks, fast switching left kicks, in a frustrated Camacho. That knockout came because Camacho was getting picked apart absolutely everywhere and couldn't get the takedown. And I think it would behoove Mike Perry to try to get the takedown all the way around. I think Mike Perry has an advantage in the ground game and just stifling the striking just because Neal looks so good. If Perry goes in there and tries to go shot for shot with Neal, I think that their power is comparable. I just see the better traps and the better all around. Neal uses his legs and his punches a lot more well-rounded than Mike Perry's kind of boxing. He'll throw a kick in there here every once in a while, maybe a leg kick, but he really just likes to box in there. So I think Neal just has a little more weapons as far as them striking. And Mike Perry does have a puncher's chance here. Neal does get hurt, but I just like Neal. I think he's going to get a finish here. I think Perry gets hit a little more than he should at times, and Neal hits too hard to get hit at all. So Nico Price does a lot of that same, where he'll take a couple shots, and he found out very quickly, you can't take Neal's dead shot. You can't take that hand straight on. That left hand just hurts you a little too much, and I think that's going to end up happening here. Give me a TKO round number 2. Jeff Neal for the finish against Perry. Really interesting stylistic matchup that Perry chose to sign a dotted line. I would think he'd go against another fighter a little lesser here. Who do you have in this bout and why?
19 per UFC rankings, 19 versus 22. Geoff Neal is actually ahead of Mike Perry, which is kind of weird. Name value, Mike Perry just talks himself a good game, and I just think Geoff Neal with the Nico Price and what's his head, Belal Muhammad. Are you kidding me? Like going against both those guys who are better hands, better grinders, both of them than Mike Perry. Yep. I just got to think this is more of the same for Neal. I did have a KO round 3. I'm moving it up to round 2. I could even see it round 1 because I think all this through here is cheeks and nose, the bridge of his nose. I think all that's going to get fucked by Jeff Neal in the first round. So the only reason we'll see a second round is the warrior mentality of Mike Perry. And that's why we all love Mike Perry. So, yeah, I just think this is going to be brutal.
That's why he's a profile headlining preliminary bout for the pay-per-view to get people to watch because of that warrior spirit, but it, I think, will come back to bite him in the ass. Neal being a decided favorite here, minus 265, 3-1 essentially. Favorite, 9,100 on DraftKings against Perry, 7,100. I'm going to go 20 to 30% on Neal, 0% Mike Perry. I just think that it's 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10 times does Neal win this fight for me. So what do you think on DraftKings as far as those
I feel pretty much the exact same way. I could even see Geoff Neal becoming my linchpin of the night. I could see him being one of the heavier guys
agree with that.
Play, even the price-wise.
Right.
So,
Right.
Before I'm going to break here for business, take care of the business, I'm going to talk some shit. Tell you guys, guess what? Are you following at LATB_MMA? Well, you should be, because if you do, you can find all the information on the other cool guys that we do the Fight Pick Championship with and learn how to follow them, and that'll be fun. But you can also learn how to follow me at Weakneck Baby and at Emmanuel at Zoltanite. Remember, you can also follow us on our Instagram and tell a friend. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. And
we're here for the breakdown. UFC 245 pay-per-view, 3 belts on the line. It's starting off with the profile fight. We have a legendary type of fighter, Uriah Faber, coming in against Peter Yan out of retirement. Faber comes in and knocks out Ricky Simone with one punch. Then ends up having a call out from No Mercy Yan. Yan willing to accept the fight with a perfect 13-1 record.
So Yan called out Faber?
I believe he did after the win, and Faber's like, yeah, that seems about right. That'll get me right into title contention. And the 26-year-old Yan is a 13-1. He is a Russian fighter fighting out of Muay Thai. Been watching some highlights on this guy. He's been a top prospect for a reason, beating John Dodson, beating Rivera in a decision as of late. He's been on nothing but a win streak. He just all the way around, fundamentally sound, a good striker, knocks down a lot of opponents, has a gas tank for days in there. Posted some training footage of Jan's, and he's knocking out his opponents. Did I show you that? Or it says not his training partners. Him landing a left head kick, and his partner went down hard.
I totally do. I'm just talking shit.
Peter Yan being nasty in there, and he's definitely someone that I wouldn't want to train with after seeing that and be like, I'm going to not go to pro class. Like, that ain't worth it. We're practicing. It's practice. So, Peter Yan, No Mercy for a reason. He gets it done in there and in a high-level gym over at Tiger Muay Thai.
You should go train with Dillashaw. They'd be good training partners.
They'd be done.
Would get knocked out.
The one career would be ruined, if not both. So against Uriah Faber in here, the 35-10 legend, we know what he has: overhand
steroids?
right. Oh.
I thought that's what he said in an interview, is that he left so he could do a cycle and then come back. Retire.
Oh, interesting.
I'm making that up. That was evil Faber.
That was that Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw talk?
Yeah.
So, really interesting with Uriah Faber. I mean, we can't really take much from that last fight in his return from his retirement because it was essentially one punch.
I'm going to fall out of my chair. You know what else starts right now?
What else?
The Fight Pick Championships.
Oh, my goodness. So, it's got extra little bit
now
of oomph
it's real.
on it.
That's why I was all willy-nilly like, I picked Leslie Smith to win. Like, I didn't even care. I was willy-nilly. Now it's serious time. It all matters. Who are you aiming for this week? Besides the top, obviously, me and the winning federation. Let me say, me and the winning federation. I put myself with him. He's beating me by like 175 points.
Definitely that number one stop. I'm coming for that strap. We got until International Fight Week to get our picks up. Been living large at the top. Out of all of the podcasts, LaTB's been representing easily being top 2 and 3 for a long time standing now.
We're the top MMA podcast in the Fight Pick Championship.
100%.
And if you watch the streams and WWE, we should start a LaTB stream when we fight each other.
We've been saying that for years.
Training.
We training.
We are training for the UFC. It'll be called UFC FL. We're training for it, and we'll put a stream on. Okay, let's get back to it. I know we're here for the main card.
Uriah Faber being a huge underdog against Peter Yan. 9,400 is Peter Yan on DraftKings against Uriah Faber's 6,800 plus 135.
Wait, everything matters! Who are you picking?
I got Yan decision. A lot of people have him finishing Faber. I think Faber, all the way around, is more than serviceable to not get finished in there. I think it turns into a decision because Faber all of a sudden stops engaging and just kind of runs away. Turns into a boring decision. I need that hot 25 to start it out. That hot 25. That hot 25. That hot 25. That hot 25.
My tune's a little different. It goes a little more like Bing, 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 ding, 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 hot 25, I got that hot 25, I did the hot 25, I got that hot 25. I too, though, have Yan by decision. So, everybody else is listening, right? Who would ever have Uriah Faber in this?
Supposedly some heathens do out there, but that's not even substantiated. But you're getting a ton of price. I mean, minus 500 Peter Yan favorite, plus 350 Faber. Yeah, if you like him, take that shot. I think you're jumping off of a ledge.
And question, Do we have to worry about that patented Uriah Faber game with Peter Yan? Does he leave himself open with that hot shot and early stoppage? Like
everything's in the air when it's a Uriah Faber fight. He comes in with a lot of credibility. He gets a lot of crowd praise. His shots mean a little bit more.
Why am I a Faber hater now?
That chin.
It's all about the way his chin looks.
But on DraftKings, 9-4, the most expensive fighter, Peter Yan. I'm going to have him in spots. It's not going to be ultra heavy because he's so expensive, but I think he can clear with all of the takedowns that Faber's just given up more and more later in his career. I just feel like Faber gets worn out after the first round with the pace we've seen Yan keep.
Give me Yan on my cards. I love Yan.
Then we move on to a bantamweight bout. Give me this fight 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Marias would have been 12.
It would have been the champ, Jose Aldo, against Marlon Moraes. In here, Krillin himself, 31 years old is Marlon Moraes, fighting out of Jupiter, Florida. Fighting over out of the Armory. He's coming in with Usman. I feel like they train together, but striker, deal-like type of a bout we have underway. Jose Aldo being a longtime reigning champ, only losing to the high levels. Dare I say Conor McGregor, definitely Max Holloway. As of late, Volkanovski just decisioned him fairly one-sided. Aldo really couldn't get anything off, and he had a 2-fight winning streak in there against Moicano and Jeremy Stevens, so Aldo not completely done, but he is moving down in weight. And there has been some mummy photos coming out of Jose Aldo. If there was points of his career that everyone's like, I don't know how he makes 45. This guy needs to move up to 155 pounds. And he's like, they're too big, guys. They're too big. 35? I don't know if he's going to make weight. We have to watch weigh-ins. This could be a Convilio situation in here.
He looked, though, kind of small already, like over a week ago. He already looked down to what else is there to lose? He had that, like, Bruce Lee type body fat you hear. He looked like legendary, like every muscle you can
And then
see.
he still has 5 or 6 pounds of water weight to get off after looking that way. So
I hope he's okay, because you never hear, like, you know what you should do as you're getting older as a fighter? Go down in weight. You never hear that.
Especially after a career of having trouble making 45.
He looked ripped AF. Aldo does have power AF. He's gonna. The things that about Aldo though that have made him so amazing is his speed, and is he gonna lose that going down with these guys a little bit? And also he, with the exception of the 2 guys that you mentioned, Aldo's not a chinny dude, but being smaller, all of a sudden, the 2 things that you kind of are nervous about, it doesn't go for good.
Totally agree. One of the biggest advantages Aldo has is his speed, and moving down in weight doesn't make you faster. And Marlon Moraes is known to be fast, have more devastating kick combinations, but Aldo, very experienced kicker, great body left shot, where Moraes is all torso. Look at that little funky guy. He's all torso. I think he's open to body shots as well. We saw what happened when Moraes gets stifled a bit. Henry Cejudo, which we both picked as an underdog, didn't wilt in that fire, came through, and Moraes gassed. Moraes throws a lot into those shots, especially if he feels that he has you hurt. So I feel like here, Aldo has that type of veteranship to go hard into a bout. The variable is that weight cut. I think he's giving up more power, which he had good power, and he's more compromisable. I don't think your chain gets better moving down in weight as much as your speed. So I think it's all this weight cut. I think it's a bad weight cut. I absolutely hate it. I want to pick Aldo. He is the better all-around fighter, not the better just striker. Moraes has a slight advantage in the power.
Ugh, I feel the exact same way.
I got Moraes in that round too.
I picked a lot of my fights ahead of time, but I'm like, everything in me wants to pick Aldo. Everything says Aldo should win this fight, especially if Cejudo. But also, Aldo doesn't have the same ground game as Cejudo. Aldo for sure doesn't have the same youth on his side as Cejudo. So, but I just don't.
It's the weight cut for me. It's why I can't be confident in Jose Aldo and I can't pick him outright. He is an almost 2-1 underdog, minus 200 for Moraes against the plus 160. I got Moraes TKO round number 2, but I'm fading the weight cut. And that's what has me. I have to see. I've watched embeddeds. I've been watching backside. I can find only a few pictures. I still haven't, so... Gotta see the weight.
I think Aldo has more power than Cejudo even right now, but he's not as fast as Cejudo.
No way.
So it's like, can he catch Marlon the same way? I do like the amount of time that Marlon's taken off since his last fight. I still don't know if I can pick this. But I do see a knockout either way. I definitely think this is an inside the distance fight knockout. Ooh. I'm going to have to pick Marlon Moraes, too. I don't like that. You know what, though? But this is the number one thing I could change on. If I see a strong Aldo walk himself to the scales with his underwear on and fucking stand there and make his muscles and walk off, I'm switching to Aldo. But I just can't even imagine. I bet this fight falls out.
That's what I think.
Or he doesn't even intend on making the cut and he comes in at 140 and it's a catch.
That's what I'm saying with Cavillo. Or where it's like
no one, like whatever.
I'm not
gonna
make
20%
it
and get
exactly.
The W.
I'm still getting paid because of his championship fight lineage. He's still getting paid a lot more than most other people because that plays a fact.
I have KO round number 3 for Marlon Moraes because I think the cardio is going to be a factor and the chin. But I could, if the other to be said, if Aldo comes out all wobbly, shaky kneed, I'm moving up to round 1. I'm moving it up to round because Marlon Moraes has that kind of power. He has killer leg kicks.
Yep. Calf kick, I think it'll be in play.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, that fight though, gruesome. Great fight.
Great fight. On DraftKings, you're gonna end up paying $9,000 for Moraes. Jose Aldo comes in at $7,200. I've actually been putting Aldo on cards because if it goes to decision, Aldo could squeak it out. But I haven't been putting Moraes on a ton. There's a lot of respect I'm giving to Aldo here. He doesn't look completely shot. It's this fucking way in. He doesn't look completely shot, but I've never seen him at 35 either. Ever.
Yeah. And
in an early career, I've never seen him this. So it's just like, dude. So... we'll see what ends up turning out. Anything left with those guys on DraftKings? What do you think you're going to do on 9,000 with Moraes?
I think I'm going to play both a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
I like Aldo if he can get some money involved, and Moraes usually is good for some kind of finish. So, very, just gruesome, great fight. I kind of am excited. I know everyone hates it. I'm excited to see Aldo at 135 because if this goes well for him, one of my little dream fights that I thought I'd never see is Aldo versus TJ Dillashaw. That is a super fight at 135.
Oh, that's such a good fight.
And I just think give Aldo enough time after this off
He'll
so
take
he
it.
can. Yeah, I just think that's a beautiful fight.
Oh, that's a great
TJ's
fight.
return, but I think we might have another year for that or something. But anyway,
Yep.
that's another combo. Killer fight. Love it.
Such a great pay-per-view bout. Then we move on to the championship bouts. We're going to have 3 of them. The one that starts it all off is Amanda Nunes, the Lioness, coming in against Germaine de Randami. 2, they first did it in Abu Dhabi years and years ago in the UFC. Nunes came out getting a first round stoppage via elbows, TKO, ground and pound. De Randami came back, won all of her fights after that, beating the likes of Pacheco, Holly Holm in there, Melrose, at Pennington in a decision. And as of late, getting her the first finish in a while. Did she knock out Aspen Ladd after being compromised in that weight cut? So, De Randami, we know she's a Dutch kickboxer, was a police officer, retired essentially, stepped away from getting the 45-pound belt. Crafty veteran. She's knocked out guys in her life. She has a great left hand. She's southpaw, but will switch. Good leg kicks, is incredibly long, as we're saying, like Saunders. She uses her length well as well. Keeps people at the end of her punch. But if you look at some of the embeddeds, Nina Asneroff and Nunes are looking back at their first fight, and they're like, oh, look at that first kick that she took her down with that finished the fight, essentially. She's like, all Nunes did was practice for that kick the entire fight camp because they knew on the ground, De Randami's done. De Randami has not... She's a purple belt now in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but Amanda Nunes has been a black belt for years, though. For absolute years.
She used to have a black belt tattoo on her arm, but now it's covered.
Right. So, Nunes has fought all of her level of competition has been nothing but the highest level in the UFC, knocking out Holmes as of late recently, which Darren Domi almost did, but it was after the bell twice. I feel like the craftiest thing you have to be worried about with Darren Domi here is cheating. She's a fighter that will throw a cup punt. She will throw an after the bell elbow, and hopefully Nunes keeps her guard up. I do think this goes a lot further than the first fight.
She's like Cowboy Oliveira.
100%. I like to bet on those fighters because I'm like, hey, if the ref is stupid enough to let it gets through, and you should reprimand that ref, but you got to keep an eye on.
And she comes from that camp, a.k.a. known
100%.
for towels, known for dick kicks, known for eye pokes.
All of it. But here, Nunes has been fighting again. She's got 2 wins over my baby Shevchenko in here. So she's elite striker, elite on the ground. As I was saying, I don't think it goes to decision, but I don't think it finishes in the first. I got round number 4. I think Darren Domi's been in championship rounds once or twice, and she really just holds on where Nunes will press forward because that's her new normal for the last 3 years has been 5-round fights.
So you have a finish in round number 4. What kind?
I think it's going to be, again, TKO ground and pound stoppage. I think even Amanda can get her down off of the cage. It doesn't have to be a catch kick. I think Nunes has many ways of entering, and she's a smart fighter, as is her camp at American Top Team. They're like, yeah, why even give her a chance striking? Let's just do what we did the first time and get paid for another finish. So I like Nunes. I think it is another good legacy fight for her, but I do see her winning, as do a lot of people.
I think Amanda Nunes is next level GOAT. It actually surprises that this should be the co-main. I mean, they're all 5 rounds
Belts
and whatnot, but I just at least sandwiched the lady in there.
Right?
Like,
Split
get all
up.
night
Yep.
at the Roxbury in there.
Agreed.
So, I am not giving GDR as much credit. I respect the Iron Lady. If this was at 135, this would be such a different fight in my brain. Or it is at 135.
Correct.
I don't know why I thought it was 140.
No, GDR did not want the fight at 35 because Amanda was like, let's do it. And she's like, no, I'm not going to give you 10 pounds. She's a 35er. She never wanted the 45-pound belt.
Yeah, that's so smart. Okay. I still have Nunes, and I think this is going to be a dangerous fight for her. I just think, you want to stand and box with Amanda Nunes? How did that go for Chris Cyborg? I do think GDR's hands, and especially kicks, are better than Chris Cyborg. Amanda Nunes just has some way when it goes in there, once the first, or at least this is the way we've been seeing her fight, almost like that change of mind, which oddly enough, same camp, but that same thing that we saw happen with Gamebred is, what am I doing with these fights going to decision? I'm going to go out there and finish these women. And we've just seen this. She is a lion, and she's a lion amongst, not that they're not other amazing animals that she's going against, but you're like, oh, look at these beautiful gazelles jumping across or a lion. It's a lion. It's just, Amanda is killer. I think any kind of forward pressure, the credit I'm trying to give is Nunes KO round 2 to GDR. I really think it's going to be a round 1 finish. And, I just can't imagine. GDR has 0 ground game. I think Amanda can get her down and take her down. I think Amanda Nunes has that next level power, and I think she's trained for that 5th round a lot of times. Age is on her side. Amanda Nunes KO round 2. I want to pick round 1. It feels that's the credit I'm giving. I think if it goes to round 3, Amanda Nunes will take round 3 off. That could be GDR's. That's the only way I see it going to decision, in which I think Amanda Nunes handles it.
I agree. Even if it goes to decision, I feel like she wins 4, if not all 5 rounds, potentially. There's just, the level of competition has been dramatically different in the last few years, even with the breaks. So I don't just see GDR making up that big of a difference in that time.
Do you think GDR hits harder than Cyborg?
Yes, because she hits with more precision, which those will hurt you, but
I think she has more precision, but I give Cyborg the power.
Flat, raw power.
And I feel like Amanda Nunes ate some Cyborg punches on the way into that whole thing. She ate some gnarly. When you rewatch that fight, you're like, oh, shit.
And she threw back, and Cyborg was like, uh-oh.
But Amanda
That hurt.
Nunes, she trains with Colby Covington. Is this all American top team, no American top team?
She doesn't train with Colby Covington because there's a lot of
They
intermixing.
actually train together.
Oh, did they? Because
no,
there's.
I'm totally making it
I was
up,
gonna
you
say
guys.
I saw
no,
video.
I know they don't train together. Everybody hates Colby, but they're in the same camp. Is this all American top team? No American top team?
I think it is.
Oh,
So that camp has just been pulling out monsters. So on DraftKings, for the minus 300 favorite, Amanda Nunes, 9,200 against GDR, 7,000 even. I'm going to try to fit in some Nunes if I can in there. But actually, I feel like out of most of these bouts, she's the least. Even though I have a finish now, I initially had a decision. I don't know if she averages with 98 points, though.
she will be the first champ ever to defend at the original weight class.
I mean,
I don't
legacy.
know if you've heard that statistic. I feel like I made it up in my head.
Legacy fight, definitely profile in there. How much do you think you're going to be playing either one of those fighters on DraftKings?
I'm going to play Amanda Nunes probably 20 to 30%.
Ooh.
I'm going to play GDR in a card. I feel like I kind of have felt it from the beginning. It could be her deal. Aspen Ladd is no Amanda Nunes.
Not even close.
And I think GDR is no Shevchenko. So, yeah. Nunes round 2. KO.
Woo!
Maybe round one. Make sure you are keeping posted.
Definitely weigh-in's going to be mattering for that. So, such a fun fight. Then we get into another heater, another one for the belt. We got New Zealand making a trip over with Alexander Volkanovski coming in against Max Holloway. Volkanovski having a 20-1 record, being perfect in the UFC, last defeating Jose Aldo, knocking out Chad Mendes, finally getting those staple fights, beating Jeremy Kennedy. He's also the second half of that city kickboxing team with Eugene Behrman and Adesanya and all them. Coming in against Max Holloway at his true champ weight, 145 pounds, where he does his best work and is actually avenged not the loss to Poirier, but at least got back on the winning streak, beating Frankie Edgar for the belt at 145. This is City Kickboxing's legacy. They're going for another belt here. Volkanovski comes in with great striking. He used to be the rugby player. Actually has really good double leg takedowns. Penetrates well on them. In that Chad Mendes fight was a slinger of a show. Volkanovski showed that he can eat shots as much as he can give. And Chad Mendes didn't want no more. He retired after that fight for sure. But really, that Jose Aldo fight, Volkanovski made Aldo move weight classes. Volkanovski was like, Aldo's like, so now I gotta fight Max Holloway and Volk. Fuck this, I'm going to 35. Like, there's nothing left for me here. Great traps, great jab as well, range control. All of these guys that we're seeing and the grappling. The submissions for Volk aren't necessarily... They're more transitions. He's not trying to submit you by any means. He likes to ground and pound. He'll get you in that side control and land punches, but he's got to get you down, and he does have deep shots in there. Against Max Holloway, though, great takedown defense, great striking, not tons of power, kills you by 1,000 cuts. The gas tank for Volkanovski is proven in a 5-rounder now, but Max Holloway is just proven to have that next level type of gear as well in the 4th and 5th. But we did see what happens with Max Holloway when he starts to get frustrated with strikes against big punchers in Dustin Poirier. It is a 55-pound bout, but it is what it is. You got to watch it and be like, all right, because Eugene Behrman and all those guys are watching that Poirier fight and being like, we're doing that as much as possible to try to break Holloway, because you do see once he gets in there that he is human. He does bleed. So this is stylistically just at range. The Hawaiian tends to pressure a little bit more with tons of angles, but Volkanovski will have answers for those, sending straight shots down the middle. I mean, anywhere this goes, this is a lot of fun, but I do think that off of specifically his back, Max Holloway, I'm talking about specifically, if he gets taken down, he has more triangles. He has more arm bars. He just on the ground has shown better submissions with better angles and just a little more of an advantage. So that's what we can take there. Whether it gets there or not is going to be seen, because I think Volkanovski can keep it standing if he wants to as well. Absolutely love this fight. I am shocked that it's this big of a spread out. I thought it would be much more of a coin flip. I had Volkanovski earlier in the week. I think I'm switching it to Max decision right now. I gotta see the weigh-ins as well. I'm tentative. I could go Max Holloway decision by that weigh-in. I have Volk on my hands. Give me Max Holloway. Volkanovski. Give me Volkanovski decision.
Whoa.
This is
Who do you think's gonna get him that decision?
the harder strikes. Like if Max is rocked, it'll look better.
Significant strikes.
Correct. Not the volume. I think Max has
the
volume.
significant strikes.
Right. I think, though, that Volk can make enough angles and land the one harder shot and then build on that. But I do think overall Max just has more attempts. He kicks to the legs more. He kicks to the body more. On the ground, I don't know if I see this go into the ground a lot more, but it's an interesting grapple on there. Decision Volkanovski right now. Underdog. Wow. Big underdog.
Well, like 3-2 rounds?
Yeah. It's a split decision, but it could even be a draw where the champ holds the freak and retains the belt. This could be a draw type of a fight, but it's that close just because they're going to be tit for tat in here. Plus 145 for the underdog Volkanovski against Max Holloway's minus 175. Who do you have in this one for the belt?
I know. I actually, if you're watching on, I have something for Max, but I don't feel like tearing down everything else to put up the one thing that I have for Max that has like him young. So you should definitely go and look at Google, whatever search engine you use, DuckDuckGo. whatever cool kids use, and Google Max Holloway young. He's such a holy shit, this kid, like
the workups have him being like you're a loser, and he's got dyed hair and he's a baby,
bleached out. He looks like a little Hawaiian Eminem. And he is a baby, and I just think he's been doing this since then. He's been doing this forever. He's been doing it his whole life. And I appreciate elite athletes, even if it's Volkanovski, like running around in rugby or whatever. I heard he weighed like 200 pounds before when he was playing rugby, or 220
210, 220, yeah. I've seen photos.
I know. I made one of him.
Jesus
and he
Christ.
is like a short little...
That's a unit.
Yeah, and he looks like a square. And so you can see how the double leg takedown comes for this guy, and you can see where the power comes from this guy. But all that being said, that elite athleteness, it's like Greg Hardy, is he going to become the champ? I just don't see him up at that top 5 level. And that's kind of... Volkanovski... I think he's awesome. I think he's elite. I think he got out of Chad Mendes, who was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door anyway. A Jose Aldo, which we're all questioning, like his last gasp of trying to make himself relevant is going down in weight, like how bad of an idea it is all the way around. So I think when I've been watching the embedded, I thought Volkanovski has looked like a skeleton. He has not looked okay. He has been walking around like, oh, you want me to sign here? Like he has that zombie look on his face.
He's getting down there.
We see Max here a lot. We see Max at this. He was signing like, I don't write blessed anymore. I write Max. I just sign my signature. And if you get one that says blessed, it means I met you in person. Like he's all uppity, all quick-witted, all going. I liked what I was seeing from Matt on these weight cuts. Volkanovski was making me look nervous. And this is still this far in before tomorrow's weigh-in. You're already looking like this right now, and you got 2 more hours in a sweat box, 1 more hour in a hot tub, some hours on the bike and treadmill. Like that makes me nervous for you, homie. So I also think what Volkanovski needs, Max is the best at in the whole division. Volkanovski needs to get on the inside to do any kind of work with his short little tiny rugby arms catching that tiny non-football. Whereas Max is the best at keeping distance in the entire division. He can keep everything at range at the end of his punches. He's so great on timing. I think it's a testament to how good Dustin Poirier is, but I also think how quick they rush that fight out and how quick they move Max. Like we've seen fighters moving up and 10 pounds of moving up, right? Jorge Masvidal. We've seen a good 10 pounds of muscle being gained compared to a rush 10 pounds. Even look at Nate Diaz now as a true 170er compared to Nate Diaz when he was fighting Conor McGregor back then. He put on a true 10 pounds of muscle now. And I think that for Max, that was just way too quick of a fight. He could have stayed in this for another year and thought about doing that over a long haul going into his 30s. But I just think it's not that it's disrespectful. I think Max makes it look easy. So when everyone watches his fights, they're like, oh, I can figure out this guy. The thing is you're trying to figure out that old puzzle. Max is on to the next puzzle. I think it is still the blessed era. I'm excited to see him back at 145. He wants to taste all the flavors, and Volkanovski is just the next flavor. Give me Max Holloway. This is so weird for me. I have Max Holloway decision now that I don't have a finish. I'm giving Volkanovski full credit that I think that rugby, dirty, Australian heart is going to be impossible to finish. I think this is actually going to be a fight for the ages. This is going to be one. When I started to do my LaTBs, a little shout out to the LaTBs, when I started to do my awards for the end of the year, I was like, shit, I can't. There's too many good fights that could be on this, and I see it. This could be potentially one of the fights of the year.
This could so be a fight of the year potential. Oh, it's such a juicy fight. It's got me wanting to eat cupcakes. You know, I like them cupcakes. So
are you talking about
the
flavor? You talking about eating Tate?
So the flavor that Max is going to try is New Zealand. He is the plus 175 favorite, 8,700 on DraftKings against Volkanovski, 7,500 plus 145. I could see myself switching to Max by the end of the week. I'm tentative on Volkanovski right now, but
I'm not saying it's crazy.
Everyone else has Max.
Styles make fights, and he's never gone against a style like Volkanovski.
Correct.
So, and, Australia coming out hot.
Yep.
Coming out hot.
I didn't think Adesanya would do it, and see what happened there. They're coming out of the same game.
I did.
So, definitely.
That's my boo.
On DraftKings, I'm going to be exposed to both of these guys, and we haven't even talked about it yet. This is 3 title fights in a row. That means that you can stack, potentially, all 3 fights and not have to pick another bout.
And potentially they could all go it because you got 2 extra rounds on every one.
On every one, and these guys, Holloway Volkanovski should be volume.
Gosh, now that I
strikes.
have it going to decision, that could be worth a stack.
At 7-5, I like the values that, average Volkanovski against Steven Jose Aldo. He got 70 points. His average is 107. Against Jose Aldo, he's done the worst scoring-wise on DraftKings with 77 points. Prior to that, 107, 100, 128, 116, 107, 115.
I might have to make a new image, a new logo for this fight. And it'll be on ones later, but it's going to be like a dirty split. You don't always see it because you don't always think it's going to be a dirty split. This might be the LaTB stack.
True.
Like it might look like a hamburger. That's how I'm imagining it, with like different condiments in the middle, and then one of the condiments LaTB, another beef stack.
Right.
Anyway.
Max Holloway against Ortega on DraftKings, 190 points. Not strikes. 190 points on DraftKings did Max Holloway get. Like, this fight could get us into next level on points on DraftKings. So I think the stack is super live.
The best is blessed.
Woo!
Sorry, I know you have a look on.
Woo! For now. This is a close one, but I'm going to be playing both guys. Might even stack them as we're saying, but definitely put both guys. You're going to need one, or if not both of them. Definitely such a great bout. That's good enough for any pay-per-view. We could be done.
We could be done.
We
Out
could
the
be
door,
out of here.
going home.
Nope. 2 title fights. Woo! I'm spent.
Slap
12
the
card
old
bout.
wife on the ass.
Let's go,
telling her,
babe.
Get in the kitchen. Give me dinner.
Give me a PB&J. Let's go.
PB&J and a BJ. Just kidding. She would look at me and be like, why don't you go clean your fish pond?
Is that what you call it?
She'd be like, why don't you play your video game? And I'd be like, okay.
Yep. Boo. So definitely hitting it up.
I did on my UFC. I know we're about to get into the main event, but this is the main event. On my UFC 3 video game, I finished my first fighter's career to become the GOAT.
Right, you were saying that.
I was saying that. I don't know who to start with next. Are you finding a favorite fighter on that game?
Not yet, but I don't play those career stuff. I am all about just getting into that live and learning on the trial by fire. So
I might have to check that out.
Dos Santos and heavyweight, I've really liked.
DeSanta. Huh, interesting one.
Yeah, you got some fun kicks.
I don't know why, but I'm feeling like I might be a Dan Hooker type fighter.
Ooh, nasty.
I know. I thought I was a takedown artist, but I'm getting pretty brutal with my kicks.
I'm sure they're loving it in this heavy-duty breakdown.
Okay, sorry.
For the main event, it is what we came for, 170 pounds. We have Kamaru, Marty Usman coming in against Colby Chaos, Professor Chaos himself, Covington. Kamaru Usman, I am with all love with Marty. I know it's whatever it is, but he's been definitely interesting aspect of these fights and this whole workup. He has at times been the heel with taking off his shirt and just kind of not playing the good guy role. As Colby's like, dude, I'm being the bad guy. All you gotta do is the good guy. And at times it's just like, I'm gonna go try to fight this guy in the lobby with Abdelaziz, and it's like, no, Usman, that doesn't make you look good. Where, of course, Colby don't care. That's not his game. So there's been a lot of back and forth. Colby's been talking a lot, bringing up a lot of really sensitive issues about former managers who just passed away for Usman, and Colby's bringing that stuff up. And those were people.
Abdelaziz passed away?
No, that's why he has a lead, because his initial.
Don't send anyone after me.
So he went the same way Epstein did.
Oh, shit. Red handkerchief?
Exactly. So
he just walked out. He faked his death. Is that what you're telling me?
Exactly. He's in Bermuda somewhere. So definitely, Usman has also been just showing that he's letting that get to him a little bit as well. But the other claim that's been going as of late is Colby's been saying that EPO and steroids, PEDs, Usman's been in his back pocket for a while, and you can see how. And I took it for just talk, and then I saw an article of one of his longtime training partners popping multiple times within this last 2 months for EPO and other PED substance. So it's like, all right, it's at your gym. TJ Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt, Uriah Faber. Like, if one guy's doing it.
Gosh, and you know what? You know who else we've seen a huge dive off if you're bringing one guy in the gym? We've seen kind of a huge cap out of Luque. If you're just talking about a gym being sketchy.
Well, gas tank issues potentially, but we haven't seen that from Kamaru Usman. He's had a stellar.
He has some weird skin.
Stellar gas tank.
Like, it makes me think. I always notice guys that are taking certain
back
things.
knee.
Yes,
yeah,
he's a really bad case. I know that also comes from wrestlers. But I just don't imagine him spending a lot of time on his back unless he's been training for that.
I mean, if we're talking about the unit of Volkanovski, we saw Usman in person and we're like, oh.
I thought he was
205er. Yeah, you were like, he's a 205er.
Yeah,
no, you thought it was Jimmy Manuel. So Usman's massive in there. Definitely shown a great gas tank, great wrestling, JUCO champion. Coming in against Colby Covington's D1 Wrestling. We've talked about this many times. If you're following for that plus money puesta, you already know. But I feel like we still got to tell you why.
I did ask you off air, and I think it's a good where I was like, oh, one of them's a D1, one of them's a D2. What's the difference?
So Colby Covington was only All-American once, but he was a D1 wrestler wrestling at Oregon State, where
hard-ass wrestling school.
One of the hardest, for sure. And Colby just proved that he wasn't a champ, but he definitely has the credentials of just being high next level, where the JUCO champion isn't that D1 level because he was a champion. And there is something to be said for that. The difference, though, in both of their wrestling careers is that Kamaru Usman went to the Olympic team and was an alternate for the tryouts, where Colby Covington didn't even get mentioned there. But Colby also not quit. His wrestling career was over, and he started MMA, where Usman went to wrestling and then started MMA. There was multiple, when Kamaru Usman was just a coach on the Tough House back like 5-6 years ago, they told him, hey, dude, you should fight. And he was like, nah, man, I just coach wrestling. I'm a wrestler. And they essentially were like, you could do MMA. Transitioned over, and now is doing it, and it shows great takedowns, great double legs, ultra explosive. The fight that I mainly went back on to look at them for the best, I feel like, showcasing was Dos Anjos. They have it in common. They have multiple other fights in common. Damian Maia, other opponents in there. Not T. Woods, which we just had a blowout happen with Kamaru Usman here. But T Wood didn't look the best, and I don't think T Wood is ever gonna get that belt or strap again. I think Colby Covington could do a lot of what Usman did, not the same in the same way, just kind of a little different route, but using that wrestling. In that Dos Anjos fight, the biggest things that stood out is the manner of takedown in both of these two fighters. Colby Covington immediately gets in your face, goes for the body lock, goes for the double legs, goes to strikes, goes back for the body lock. Kamaru Usman is much more measured. He walks out, pats at you, throws a jab, throws an overhand right, and only throws at most 3 and 4, not even 3 and 4, at most 2 and 3 punch combinations. When he's hurt fighters, he'll throw 5 and 6, but he's much more in that top side control instead of out in the open striking, where Colby is throwing punches at your face on the ground and on top, it doesn't matter. It's the takedown defense. Kamaru Usman has great takedown defense, as does Colby. And on the ground, in that Dos Anjos fight, in the third round, I saw Colby take some deep breaths. Saw him take a couple big puffs. The announcers even talked about it. And I was like, all right, well, this is where it should have turned. But in that third round in between, Colby got it together and came out and pushed even harder, where Kamaru Usman in no fight has ever taken that deep breath. I didn't see it. When I watched his fights, he steadily stays on you, hurt lots of fighters, says he's a knockout artist, but in the UFC, Colby Covington has finished more UFC fighters. Usman is much more of a decision type of fighter. He'll hit you with that 1 and 2 shot. He does have more power. But where I think the intangible here is for Colby Covington is when he gets in his face, Usman likes to stay at distance because it's his pace. Even though it's a high pace and he likes to be an advantage, nobody ever gets him out of that rhythm. Colby Covington staying in his face is going to get him out of that rhythm. And once the breathing gets out of control, I don't know if Usman's going to be able to get it under control. I've seen it happen to Colby and him able to regulate it. That's little itty bitty inconsistencies, but that's where I needed to go in this fight because I was just watching everything, and it's such a close fight that it boggles my mind that there's this much of a difference in betting lines. Minus 190 now for Kamaru Usman. This is a coin flip at best, so the betting value, by far, the plus money puesta is Colby Covington. I know why a lot of people are going with Usman, and rightfully so, but I just feel like Colby Covington is going to bring a different type of pace that's going to mess up the rhythm of Usman. But this is a decision type of fight. I don't see this being a knockout for either fighter. It goes to the scorecards.
Do you think the decision could hurt Colby?
Yes, because he doesn't have the belt officially, even though he has the interim, which he was stripped of.
Yeah, for no reason.
For no other than he didn't want to fight on a short notice when he had to have no surgery. But hate is going to hate.
Do you think ESPN being a Disney company and politics, as suck as it is, do you think that could affect him too? Like, just for being this, like, playing the MAGA guy and...
Sure. Yeah, it could. I feel like an aspect I didn't touch on is multiple times with Kamaru Usman. I know we can't touch on
climate, but
sure.
There's other things. And,
there is other things. One of the big factors is multiple times, and we've talked about it here, Kamaru Usman broke both of his hands. He broke his foot. He broke his other hand. He broke his hand again in multiple fights where he later on comes out and says...
I was at 30%.
Exactly. Kamaru Usman will have excuses for not being able to finish fighters, or even excuses of why he stopped throwing punches, where Colby, with her, he hasn't ever talked about it. He's like, I'm good, because it's not it's a little bit of a different mentality. So it was just something that I kept seeing where he's like, I broke both my hands, but I won. And 30%. And Colby's like, nah, man, I could go 10 more rounds in the bedroom.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a little shade at Usman here. I was kind of an Usman hater, and then we loved him for a lot of years. We pulled him. We knew he'd be in this position of being a champ one day. But all that is only with my knowledgeable eyes now, looking at the whole picture. He didn't blaze a trail. Colby was there with a machete, teaching him the exact game plan of all these fighters, and fought all these fighters a year younger in all their careers, of ancient careers, like old effing dudes, like 40-year-olds. And that's so old in fighting, especially with the amount of miles like Rafael dos Anjos or like Damian Maia or any of these guys. And so Colby kind of gave everybody the game plan of this. I think Ali Abdelaziz is sneaky and shady, and everybody's looking, and he kind of rushed Usman to the title shot of Woodley anyway. The way he handled Woodley is like nothing to be said.
Yep.
I think that Colby could have done that same thing to Woodley that night.
100%.
And I think that also, if you look at all the fights that Usman took right after Colby, he was like, why is he calling out Woodley? What's he see that I don't see? Oh.
He lost a step.
If somebody is going to have better actually takedown defense, and you get wrestled where the takedowns don't come as easy, that's another thing that'll burn your cardio. Everybody thinks the power there is for Usman, but go back. He doesn't finish fights. Mm-hmm. He does have the same rinse and repeat. He is more like, it's not the same necessarily style as Khabib, but he gets both legs under, he wraps him up, and he stays down. It's a lot more shoulder in the face than it is a bunch of punches. Mm-hmm. So Colby is busy. I think the Usman may dominate for a little while, but the amount of work it will take him to dominate Colby, a guy with the amount of wrestling knowledge that he has, is going to burn him out. And I do think something was fishy with Usman, and you just look at his body.
So, also, great point. I wanted to mention this in my notes here. On the embeddeds, the things that I like to look in the background, I have not seen Kamaru Usman without a knee pad on. That right knee. And he talks about injuries constantly. He, in the first episode...
Already his excuse, building it up. And if you already have an excuse in your head, that ain't a good place.
Do you remember him saying, one of the hardest camps? It was a really rough camp. Did you hear that on the first embedded? They asked him, like, how's it going? He's like, man, it was a pretty tough camp. But he looks stiff out of both fighters to me when they're showing him. He's just like, okay. But wrestling wears on the joints. How Ben Askren hip replacement... Coleman multiple wrestlers. That stance, that level, it works on the joints.
And if the wrestling, if it stunts
Olympic
each
level.
other at all.
Right.
Colby wins on the hands all day to me.
Agreed.
All day. Just the amount of punches, you can call whatever you want significant, but the pure amount of punches that are going to be thrown by Colby compared to Usman. And I think going into that fourth or fifth, I think we're going to see, it's going to be a great fight. So I think some people are going to be if you're not educated in the sport, you're going to be bored sometimes.
Agreed.
But I think Colby turns it up, stays at distance, and I just think he handedly wins the last 2 rounds. And I have Covington decision.
It's whether he can get the first 3.
I have Covington decision.
Me, as do I.
I don't see a finish for Kamaru Usman. It makes me nervous that he could get robbed, because I could see it as a 3-2, but they still give it to Usman. It makes me nervous, even his politics and
as you're saying with Disney.
Yeah, I think that stuff I do take into account, where I could see Usman sneaking out a steal, and because people hate Colby so much, they'll be like, I don't care, I'm glad.
Right.
I'm glad.
Agreed.
But this has nothing to do. This is stripping away everything skill for skill. I love Usman. I think Usman stole what was Colby's. Like the same way you see Nate Diaz yelling at Conor, like, you took what was mine, motherfucker. That's how I feel what Usman did. He snuck in and took what was Colby's, because Colby was like getting a surgery. That's the other thing I like. If you are broken all the time, we don't ever hear about Usman with all these surgeries. I'm glad Colby fixed himself and got everything together. So right now I have Covington decision. I could see myself doing like a couple of Covington finish. I just don't see it for Usman unless it's a robbery. And that could totally happen. And I'll be like, who will fucking care? I won't even remember. Really, I'll just be like... People in the room will be like, I'm glad he lost. I don't even care that Colby lost.
On DraftKings, -190. Kamaru Usman, the favorite, decided favorite there. 8,900 on DraftKings against Colby Covington, 7,300 plus 155, 165, 170. Keep on adding it. I'm going to hit it again before closing lines as well.
I'm probably going to have Colby on every card. I don't see him getting knocked out at all.
Agreed. And
I know he's going to keep doing work from the bottom.
We could stack this as well, because Usman's going to also be he's going to have less, but he's still going to have volume. So he's going to have points compared to a lot of other fights.
This totally could be a stack as well.
We
might definitely.
Could be, but I do, as you're saying, I definitely like Colby. I'm going to go 40-50% on Colby. I'm really, at 7-3, too much value. I don't see the finish, especially early on in the fight, if it were to happen.
No way.
At
I
all.
think you guys are going to be real stunted. I think there's going to be... I could see the first takedown going to Usman, but I think the amount of work it's going to be, then he's going to try to keep it on the feet, and the feet's going to go to Colby. Then he's going to try to go back to the takedowns, but by then Colby's cardio is better than his, and he can stuff him and then start taking Usman down. I think it's going to be Usman first, then to all Colby. So, whoo! I think everyone's going to hate it. And, okay, here's my next.
Yes.
If Usman wins, I don't want to see Usman Masvidal.
No, about Usman Colby Covington, right?
Do you? Have they built enough? Do we really believe that? Or do we want to see like Masvidal versus Nick Diaz and then watch Colby versus Edwards?
I could see Edwards Masvidal actually a little more as well, just because of their back.
I think Masvidal's into that next level super
where
fighter.
Edwards
is still fighting for that belt.
True, Edwards is in.
But I don't know. This is going to be a great fight. This is going to be a great fight night.
Great fight night. This is must watch. But you all know that. That's why you're here. God, what a great show we have for everyone. What a great fight night.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Make sure you're hitting the bell up there. I'm not going to point at anything for YouTube. I know how they're like, hit there and hit there. Okay, I totally done it. All right, you guys. Thanks for coming, and we will talk to you soon.
Let me